As we all know, in My Hero Academia, there are a bunch of characters that need more fleshing out, especially in Class 1A, where, you have a lot of main cast that are being fleshed out quite decently, but then you also have a lot of people who aren't really given the same treatment. And today I thought I'd talk about one character that I think should be the next one to shine in My Hero Academia, excluding the main cast, because they are obviously going to be getting screen time regardless. The character I've chosen to talk about is Aoyama, and that is because during the Culture Festival we learned something really interesting about his character, which was that his quirk isn't really compatible with his body, but even beyond his own quirk. We've noticed that Aoyama is a very observant character who picks up on a lot of things around him that people don't really seem to notice. For instance, the whole love thing between Deku and Ochako. Deku doesn't really get that Ochako loves him and the other way around as well. But Aoyama, he notices that there is a connection for sure, and he knows, the moment they confront each other about this, it's gonna be a wrap. But that's just one of the many things that Aoyama really understands. He also realized that there's something about Deku and his quirk that is really off. He doesn't really know what it is, of course. He has no idea about the whole secret revolving One For All's quirk, but what he does know is that he and Deku had something in common, which was that they have some issue with their quirks. They have problem controlling it or mastering it in some shape or form. It's a very different case between the two of them, but there's still a level of insecurity in both of them. Granted, his approach to Deku was a little bit off when you thought about it. During the Culture Festival, the way he was looking at him throughout the window on the balcony, and he sent like that really cryptic message to Deku, which he wrote out with cheese and stuff. But I don't know, I feel like there is really a lot to learn from Aoyama's character, and that is something that I want to explore further, especially his quirk. I want to know exactly why it is that is incompatible with his body, because when you think about it, you haven't really heard of a different case where this also happened, because One For All isn't really a fair comparison since it was inherited and given to him. He wasn't born with it. Normally you're either born with a quirk or without it, and if you do have a quirk, the only cases you really hear about is that they're kind of weak, so you don't really care about them, or you're a really strong quirk user and typically you'd end up becoming a hero or whatever happens in your life. Maybe you turn to the villainous side, but you don't really hear a lot of stories in My Hero Academia where the quirks aren't compatible with its user, given that the user was born with this quirk, and so it should be perfectly compatible with his body, because evolution should not mess this kind of shit up. Yet it certainly did for Aoyama, according to him. He has to wear this belt in order for his quirk not to act up in all kinds of various ways. Like, I imagine his navel laser would just go out of control if he didn't use his belt, and something that I think we could really explore further in that front is find a way for Aoyama to really learn to come to terms with his issue, and if not possible to conquer this imperfection, at least find a way to overcome it, be it through, whatever mean possible, because right now he has this belt, but having a piece of tech that prevents you from going out of control is not very ideal in my opinion, and I would like to see Aoyama really have those issues happen to him where he actually finds out the hard way that this piece of tech will be good while it lasts, but if someone breaks it and I'm in the middle of a fight, I'm going to be in trouble. And he's gonna be a sitting duck if something really bad happens, because if his quirk acts up in all kinds of ways where he's unable to really be able to keep up in a fight, that's gonna be really bad, and someone like Deku or someone else who's more capable at the time will have to really help him out. And going back to what Aizawa told to Deku at the very early stages of My Hero Academia, when he learned about the whole thing where he broke his arm whenever he used his quirk during the entrance exam, he said that, you can use your quirk once and then you're just gonna be a sitting duck waiting for someone else to rescue you. Is that really the kind of hero you want to be? And that kind of applies to Aoyama in this case as well, if he ends up in a similar situation where his quirk keeps going out of control, or he is unable to really use it effectively, so he can't really fight whatever villain he ends up facing. So I would really like to see that being further explored in the story of My Hero Academia, and I would like it to be quite soon, because since it was a thing that was introduced in the Culture Festival, it kind of feels appropriate to really start with that instead of leaving it half finished, if you know what I mean. I'd rather have his whole thing resolved than having a lot of character just half finished. And while it is true that you can definitely take that approach without there being any bigger issues, I personally would just like to see Aoyama's quirk problem being either resolved or at least improved in whatever way, give him some spotlight, because so far he's only had really small bits. It's not really been anything major surrounding his character. Like, you had that small part during the camp arc where he shot a laser Dabi, and I believe twice, when they were trying to kidnap Bakugo and whoever else it was. I believe it was either Shoji, Tokoyami, or someone, and he obviously managed to save one of them. Of course, he didn't save Bakugo at the time, but that is one of the small parts he's played, which was a very valuable part, mind you, but it wasn't really that extensive or big by any means. He didn't really do much. So I would like to see Aoyama play a much bigger role in an arc, you know, alongside the main character Deku, of course, because he's the main character. He's probably gonna be a very centered character in most, if not all, of the arcs. I mean, the only arc where he's not really been that big of a deal so far is the Pro Hero arc. So seeing Deku and Aoyama, or at least Aoyama, you know, I don't really care if Deku is part of that specific arc, but I reckon he would because of Aoyama's connection to Deku. Since they both had problems with their quirks, it would make sense if both of them were involved at the time and not just Aoyama, because Deku could probably give him some pointers, or at least try and give him some tips. Not saying that's gonna help, of course, but you know, just seeing their relationship really build further is something that would really be valuable as well, since Deku did mention that he wants or has become friends with Aoyama now during the Culture Festival. Another thing with Aoyama's character is really interesting, which I've seen some people speculate on, is whether Aoyama actually knows who the traitor in My Hero Academia is. And I honestly don't think he does personally. Like, I think he may have some clues as to who may be acting up a little bit, but at the end of the day, there's no way Aoyama could know for certain who the traitor is, because, I mean, being observant is one thing, but I doubt whoever is the traitor would leave a big enough hint that even the most observant would really be able to pick up on, you know, this is the guy. I just don't see that being the case. Now, of course, there are a lot more characters that need screen time, but I think Aoyama should be the first one to get some, in my opinion, of course. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have very different views on who should be getting screen time next out of all of the sort of side characters or characters that aren't being as mainly focused as the main 4 or 5, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Regardless, I would like to hear what you think, both on Aoyama and also if you have any other ideas as to who you think should be the next focused side character within the class. Mind you, that's really the limitation in this video. I'm just limiting it to class 1A in this video. So if you think maybe Zero, Sato, Shoji, Koji, or anyone should be getting more screen time, I'd love to know about it. Or maybe you would like a girl to get some more screen time, like Mina, Toru, Jiro. Although Jiro and Mina got a little bit during the Culture Festival, of course, but I wouldn't say Mina got really quite enough. So I guess Mina would be a really interesting thing to see as well, to be honest. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think down below in the comments. And so yeah, I'll end this video here. So let me know down below. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember, Toga is waifu, Toga is a laifu.